that there will be those police officers looking at, possible disruption in the new year, thinking, can we actually change the way that we handle this?
Yes, Just Stop Oil have vowed to be back with their extremely disruptive protests, and I'm sure they will be. The police were very slow in the early stages of these protests, and I think basically there was a fundamental lack of courage on behalf of the police and prosecutors to use the existing law robustly and to challenge some of the stated cases, particularly a stated case which said it would only be an offence to obstruct the highway if the disruption was significant. Well, that came from a dated case from some years ago. And of course, when Just Stop Oil were carrying out these protests day after day after day, that should have been the time when the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police and the CPS said, this is our definition of significant. We will take these people to court, we will challenge that previous ruling, and we will see these people punished.
But clearly there is a sensitivity about the right to peaceful protest and where that line is drawn. And obviously the officers on the ground have to have direction from above on that.
Absolutely right. I completely agree. The right to protest is, of course, a cornerstone of our flagship democracy. And the police know that only too well because they facilitate protest and marches and demonstrations on an almost weekly basis. In fact, it's not so many years ago when thousands of police officers marched their way to Parliament themselves. So officers understand that. But there was a fundamental lack of really grasping the issue here in these protests. And of course, the damage to public trust in the police was huge, and damage to the economy is almost incalculable.
Yeah, and did actually it swing then too far the other way? I remember there was this issue, I think it was Hertfordshire Police. They arrested a reporter for the news, LBC News, on an issue of conspiracy. The fact that the reporter had arrived at the scene before the protest happened. They actually arrested her and I think put her in a cell for a few hours. That clearly they were a bit sensitive and went the other way almost.
She was indeed, and there was a shocking lack of common sense applied in that case. I believe that the journalists showed their accreditation, but the police officers were clearly so almost brainwashed by their superiors and the instructions that were handed down that they forgot that policing is often about discretion and common sense. And sadly, both of those appeared to be severely lacking in that occasion.
A lot of people were contacting us at the time, I remember emailing us and saying, whatever happened to obstruction? We thought that was quite a sort of straightforward process. That if a police officer thought that you were obstructing the highway, off you went.
Under the Highways Act of 1980, absolutely a piece of legislation which is very much in force today. But again, the police got themselves tied up about this previous stated case that said demonstrators should only be arrested if the obstruction was significant or the disruption caused was significant. And therefore, the police got themselves in a huge tangle. There was massive public frustration. We saw members of the public taking matters into their own hands, dragging people from the street. On one occasion, a woman nudged her vehicle into the back of a protester, a potentially very dangerous thing to do. And police, the confidence and trust that the public have in the police, which is already at an all-time low, simply tanks over this. The public would like to see their streets cleared, and there's enough legislation to do that, so that they can go about their daily business, whether that be going to work, visiting hospital, relatives going shopping, or otherwise keeping the wheels of the economy and the nation turning.